Okay, hi everyone. Our next assignment is focusing on color theory and limited color palettes. So you should have this PDF either in Canvas or Blackboard. Let's see if I can make it full screen. So color can be really tricky. So we're just going to kind of go over some things that can make it a little bit easier and can be helpful. Obviously, everyone works with color differently, and I encourage you to research, try new things, try to find artists that are interesting to you and use color in interesting ways. But for now, we'll just look at some things together. The basic place to start is the color wheel. So how do you take the color wheel and apply that to your illustrations? The easy way to kind of figure out how the color wheel is helpful is to break it down and to only use certain colors. And there's different combinations that can be really effective. You probably are very familiar with primary, secondary, complementary colors. But there's a few other combinations that can be interesting. If you look at this one that says intermediate, that has kind of a lot. But something like split complementary can be really interesting, where you use two colors that are close to each other on the color wheel and then one that is on the opposite side. So that can be just a good way to make your image interesting. And sometimes you think that maybe putting all of the colors together would be helpful, but actually it can be really helpful to only use 2 or 3 colors and to see all the different ways that you can figure out different combinations using only those 3 colors. So you can see we have hue. So hue is just the pure color as it is right out of the tube. Tint is that pure color mixed with white, and then shade is the pure color mixed with a little bit of black. We have warm colors and cool colors. But as you can see, there's also different variations of each color that can be warm or cool. So like here you have a warm green, and then here's a cool green. So it all depends on what is mixed in. This is another example. Here you have a cool lemon yellow, and then here there's also a warm yellow ochre. So you can think about an individual color, and it can do so many different things depending on how you mix it and what other colors are mixed with it, black and white, etc. This is the same idea, just broken down differently. So like I was talking about, there's different limited color palettes. I think trying some of these out can be helpful to practice. So you have complementary, analogous is using 3 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Triadic is using like primary or secondary colors, so 3 colors that are equally spaced. I talked about split complementary, and then tetradic is using so 4 colors that are on either side of the color wheel. So this can just be an interesting formula that you can kind of experiment with and see what results you get. Like I said, using a limited color palette, only using a few colors, can actually help you create a really strong image. So let's look at some examples. This image uses only primary colors, and really it depends mostly on pastel red and pastel blue. So these tints mixed with a lot of white. It's probably done digitally, so it's playing more with opacity, but the idea is the same. This is an example of kind of probably split complementary. You can also see a little bit of just like a pure complementary combination with blue and orange. But there's also a little bit of maroon and a little bit of kind of a teal. So this one actually might even be considered tetradic. But you can see just using a few colors, it can help you to really focus on what is most important in the image. So this is an example of probably a more purely complementary colors creating an interesting illustration. And this is something that can be literal or not as much. It can be more thematic, that you're mostly using blue and yellow, or you're mostly using red and green. But it could be more literal too, where you literally only use red and green and mix them together and get a third color that way. This is another example where it's not quite literal, but the main theme is purple and kind of orange or brown. Like I said, it could be literal. So this literally only uses magenta, yellow, and green. And then those colors mixed together to create some oranges and kind of that color that the magenta and the green make together. This is another split complementary where the theme is mostly blue and purple, and then some kind of lighter pinks, oranges, and white. This is analogous, using colors that are next to each other. So we have magenta, purple, and blue. I love this one by Mary Blair. Got blue, green, and kind of a chartreuse color. So this is triadic. This is more of the traditional red, yellow, and blue. And you can see how this poster has 3 main colors used and where they come from on the color wheel. So this idea can also be applied in fine art. Actually, a lot of fine artists use a limited color and they mix them together to create more interesting colors. So even if you're only using 3 colors, combining those together, you then could have many colors, especially if you also use black and white and mix those with those 3 colors that you choose. Sometimes you don't think about monochromatic, but that can also be an interesting limited color variation using different tints and shades of the same color. You can still get a lot of contrast there. Again, this one isn't literally monochromatic, but for the most part, it has a strong theme of green with just pops of yellows and pinks. This is really nice work by Jillian Tamaki. Because she was making a graphic novel, she was making a lot of work. And so instead of doing just black and gray, she chose like a deep indigo and then did variations on that color with opacity. This is an example of how you could use tetradic. I think probably, unless you feel very confident, only using 2 to 3 colors is probably a good place to start. But maybe next semester or next year in one of your classes, you want to try using 4 colors and seeing how they could work together. This is another example by Mary Blair, kind of using 4 main colors, mixing them together, seeing what else comes from that. And this is an example from a photo, but you can find an inspiration for color in a lot of places. So something that, I don't know, it can be helpful to know that a lot of different artists use different methods for color, but a fairly common palette was created by this Swedish artist Anders Zorn, and he uses 4 colors. With 4 colors, Zorn was able to make a variety of colors that he used, and you can see how he goes through each shade and tint of those colors, and then he mixes them with each other, and you can see this range of color that he's able to get with just the 4 colors. So we're going to use these ideas for a workshop assignment, which is mostly what we'll focus on today. And then our next assignment will be based off of these principles as well. So for your assignment, we're going to start with just making a color wheel. So you'll really just need red, yellow, and blue. And then I want you to mix them together to create all the colors in the color wheel. I know this is a fairly basic exercise, but honestly, practicing never hurts. And then taking from the same idea as the Zorn palette, I want you to just choose one color that is a pure hue, so probably red, yellow, or blue. And then I want you to mix it with black and with white, going in either direction. So you'll start with the 100% pure hue, and then you'll add a little bit of black, a little bit more black, a little bit more black, and then going to 100% black. So you'll just kind of similar to this, you'll start with the pure hue and then work your way to black, work your way to white, and see how that one color changes. And the last exercise is creating a limited color palette, and kind of using this structure is here. So you can see this person chose burnt sienna, cadmium yellow, and then blue. So you only need to do one of these. You don't need to do 4. I just want you to choose these 3 colors, and then you mix these together. So you can see this one. This color is a combination of the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue. This color here is a mixture of the cadmium yellow and burnt sienna. This color here is a combination of cad yellow and ultramarine blue. And I think this color in the middle, it's a mix actually of burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and cad yellow. I think that's what it is. And then this side is that same idea, but mixed with white. And you could also do another one where you do these same colors, but mix them with black. But I just want you to have the understanding of how your paints work together and how colors can shift and change, and how just using 3 colors can help you to create a harmonious palette. And, you know, the more that you practice this, the more that you notice these things, I think it will make a difference in your work. And I'm certainly excited to see how using these ideas will strengthen your next piece.